Hey everyone. So, in case you're wondering what the new intro music's about, the first part that you heard is basically an original recording of Johann Sebastian Bach's Brandenburg Concerto. For those who aren't familiar with classical music, it's part of what you would call the canon. And if you are a violin or a viola player, it's probably one of the first songs that you were taught in learning your instrument. It's a beautiful piece of music, but at this point, that, along with most of Bach, has been played and played and played and played and played to the point where when a new orchestra or a new philharmonic plays the piece, it doesn't sound any different at all to the original recordings of the orchestras that Bach orchestrated, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, if you've got a piece that's so beautiful, it stands the test of time, and it still sounds gorgeous no matter who plays it, that's awesome. But then I brought in that second piece to it. And the second part of it was the Brandenburg Concerto reimagined or remixed by a group called Black Violin. And they, as is their style, took a classical piece and then put more of a hip hop spin or remix on the track. So they're both still very talented, classically trained musicians, but they put their own style on it. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about in today's talk. As I was listening to Kyle's video earlier today, Hold Your Note, it kind of brought up some musical things for me because I've always been into music. I'm a singer, I've played piano, I've played saxophone, I've sang with groups, I've sang solos. And over the course of my singing life, or my life, things have changed. Things have changed substantially. Whereas I started out as a real little kid singing R&B, singing pop, to some degree singing gospel. As I got into more formal groups, I started to learn classical, I started to learn Baroque, I started to learn songs in foreign languages. Then as I got older, I started singing jazz. I started singing newer R&B as opposed to classic. I started singing rock and other forms. And one of the things that happened all through my younger years is that, with the exception of puberty, and even puberty wasn't that big a change, my voice didn't change all that much. I know you might find it hard to believe hearing me talk now, but I actually had a very high voice when I was younger. I was a tenor 2, tenor 1. So if you think of the boys' choirs, the people there hitting the really high notes, I used to be one of them. And then it wasn't until probably my late teens, early 20s, that my voice began to drop to the register that it is now. And all of a sudden, all of the things that I used to love to sing and all the things that I used to do as a tenor were no longer in my register. I mean, even my falsetto started to go, no matter how hard I worked on it, because my voice was changing, my circumstance was changing, my life was changing. And so the things that I had available to me at that stage of life were not available to me at this stage of life, at least not in the same ways. At least not in the same ways. Not to say I couldn't sing all of the Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey songs that I grew up on. I just couldn't sing it at the same octaves they could anymore. All of a sudden, I'm 2, 3 octaves down, singing it like, I don't know, Barry White sings Whitney Houston. And so it took some adjusting, and it took a long period of adjusting because I had gotten so used to singing those songs. I had gotten so used to being able to hit and hold those high notes. I had gotten so used to being that part in an arrangement, that part in a chorus, that part in any vocal performance. And it took some real readjusting to realize, okay, this is where I am now. And that has a different part to play in a vocal arrangement. That has a different array of songs and singers that cater to the voice that I have now, the music that I listen to now. And so there are some things that no matter how much I love them, how beautiful they are, I'm not going to be able to sing them the way other people sing them. I can sing them the way I sing them, So I can sing them in a lower register. I can sing them in my own style. I can sing them in my own voice. But I'm not going to be able to pull off Amy Lee from Evanescence. That's just not in my timbre. I can't do that anymore. And so I have to accept that and say, okay, within what is my register, if I want to go out to karaoke and sing something that I can carry, what are those songs? And then there's the whole thing of what is the expectation of those songs? And there are a couple things that came to mind when I started thinking about the expectation of a song. Because if you listen to music, particularly if you enjoy live music and you've ever heard cover bands, two things always happen. One is you hear somebody doing their very damnedest to sound exactly like the artist on the recording. And in almost all cases, they fall short. They fall short. There's a reason why the artist who recorded that song recorded it, because they sound exceptional at it. And not only they believed it, but the recording studio, the producers, the distribution company, everyone believed it and said, yes, you do that song because that song fits and suits you best and you do it better than anybody else. Whereas somebody who doesn't have that same voice, that same vocal talent, that same skill set is not going to be able to carry that tune as well. Now, I give them all the props in the world for doing it. I give them all the props in the world. Any live performer I love. I absolutely love. But the concept of trying to out Whitney Houston, or out Elvis Presley, or out anybody at the top of their game, any artist you can think of, you're not going to out sing them on their song. It's damn near impossible. Not if you're trying to sound like them. Now, one thing you can do, and one thing that I recommend doing, and I personally love artists that do this, is to take a song and make it their own. Is to take a song and put their own personal style on it. Is to take a song and make it distinct in a way that fits them, their persona, their spirit, their heart. And it gives a reinterpretation of the song. It gives you another way of looking at that same piece of music. And in many ways, it can be more beautiful than the original because it's coming from a different place. It's coming from a different style. It's giving you a different impression on the words. It may be giving you a different impression on the notes, on the chords. And that type of interpretation of music is one of the things that tends to make good artists great. Because what they do in their style. They do in the modality that fits them. Because they know themselves. They know themselves well enough to know, I'm not going to out Elvis. I'm not going to out Michael Jackson. I'm not going to pull off a better Prince guitar solo than Prince. But I can be the best me there ever was. And I can put me all over that shit and make it something completely new and absolutely awesome. Now, I said that this actually came to me it just kind of triggered to me in listening to Kyle's Hold Your Note video, which I think was awesome, by the way. I have a little different take on it. And that's just from my personal experience. I spent a lot of my adult years playing chameleon and just trying to fit in where I could get in, trying to play a role as best it was prescribed to me. And it was one of the things that, because I was a part of music for so long, I knew how to blend. I knew how to fit in. I knew how to accompany. And I knew how to harmonize. And so I could do that. But the problem was, in trying to accompany and harmonize and blend in with other people and make sure that I wasn't overshooting them, I was undershooting me. And so while I may have been a great accompanist, I was a shitty solo artist because I wasn't using my voice at all. I was busy trying to blend with everyone else. And that's one of the things in expression and in sharing my gifts I've had to kind of come to grips with, is that I can't do that and share what's mine. I can't share what's mine in somebody else's voice. I can't share what's mine in somebody else's style. I can't share what's mine in somebody else's manner. Because then I'm acting. I'm not being real. I'm not being genuine. I'm not sharing my heart. I'm acting. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work. When I look back personally and professionally, the times where I have been most effective in anything are the times where I was most myself, threw caution to the wind, didn't worry about perception, and just let my heart speak. And sometimes it took taking the standard, taking the way it had always been done, and putting my thing on it. Sometimes you just got to put your thing on it. And my hope is that between a combination, because there's always a balance, We are not all meant to be solo singers. We're not all meant to be the lead or the front guy. Don't mistake me. There's a lot of people thinking, oh, well, I'm enlightened now. I've got to go do my own thing and be the person. Not everyone's built to be the person. I may not be built to be the person. Some of you may not be built to be the person. And so in that regard, if there is someone else that's the lead in the mission that you are a part of, and the mission that allows you to give your greatest gift, then holding your note and being your part and making sure that your part is strong and best representative of who you are, your sound, your voice, your style, your strength, your passions, is absolutely the way to go. At the same time, if you're going to be the lead, if you're going to be the front person, if you're going to be solo, at least at the beginning, you can't do it in someone else's voice. I will never build a bigger or better Microsoft than Bill Gates. I will never build a better McDonald's than Ray Kroc. I'm not going to do much of anything better than the original if all I'm doing is copying them. And frankly, most people will notice it's a copy and just go to the original if it's still available. So if people are going to come to me, to my school, to my business, to my organization, to my mission, they're going to come because what they're hearing is me, because what they're experiencing is me. What they're feeling is me. And it has to be in my voice, it has to be in my style, and it has to reflect all of the energy that I bring to it, as opposed to just being someone else's copy.